It's Friday, so it's time for our agile, not so agile episode of the Daily Stand Up Podcast. When I was a kid, I used to be irritated when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. At that point, I didn't know yet. I had topics and activities that I was passionate about. I mean, I loved music. I loved observing people on travel. I loved reading nonfiction books. I loved trying to DJ and use my voice to do things. I loved acting and being in plays. I loved football. But none of those stood out to me like a career. Later, I had to contend with that classic interview question: what are your plans for the next 3 years or the next 5 years? For me, despite my aversion for those judgmental questions of the past, throughout life there have been a number of times where I've worked hard at deciding where my passion would lay next. Some of these moments were in transition. Um, when I discovered that I was leaving college and entering the world of work, in considering a surprise job offer at the conclusion of a big, exciting degree, those types of things. I took some time and I reviewed a whole lot of articles on the internet about this, and I've compiled a few items to help in helping you seek your individual purpose, the sense of what matters in your life. The goal is to have a sense of direction, not intention. It's when you feel energized and inspired and alive. That's what you're trying to do. Some of us are so fortunate that we can pursue our idea with our work. That is, we can change jobs to pursue our passion. Others of us have constraints that limit the pursuit to a small fraction of our time. No matter how you pursue it, it's having the pursuing that can give us greater purpose and fulfillment, more joy, more identity, more clarity. Recently, I put together a very unscientific diagnosis on a social media platform, and I posted, I'm curious, what's your relationship to the statement, I have a purpose in my life? Of the couple of thousand responses, most of them said that they had the same purpose for the last 10 years. Even more said that they usually had a purpose, but it changed at times. A smaller number said they were searching for a purpose, but not yet finding one. And the final smallest percent said they did not believe in the idea of having a purpose, which shocked me. Based on these results, I might estimate that about half of the people I talk with are searching for or may soon be searching for their focus. This assemblage of ideas is for that 50%. That's the 50% I'm talking about. So as you try to think about your greater purpose, your work, your avocation, for me, it's a lifetime process. It's not something you just do once. You don't have the same answer throughout your life. In fact, there are no rules. When you were a kid, you wanted one thing. When you're in college, you wanted something else. And that's totally fine. And I think that sometimes people try to put you in a box based on what you want. So let's give you a few short tips. So here are a handful of tips that you can do to make things better. So keep a list of the things that you love. Sometimes it's not even obvious to you what you love or what you think about the most. Notice especially when you're doing something that makes you feel like your most authentic self, when it makes you feel like, wow, this is me. When you find yourself in that moment, write down what you're doing. Keep that list going. Look for patterns. If you see patterns or an idea or a vision or concepts begin to stand out to you, work gradually towards making that more specific and make it your goal. Here's another one. Dial in and do a creative manifesto. Okay, so start a journal of intriguing questions and let them fuel your exploration. Allow it to transform your curiosity into a defining creative force. Start by writing declarative, courageous statements that start with I am, I do, I want, See what you come up with. The resulting personal creative manifesto can help you make choices that are more faithful to who you are and aim you more quickly in a direction towards your creative goals. Coming at number 3, stretch yourself to generate new perspectives and ideas. Get out of the usual rounds, the path you usually walk, the conversations you always have. It's critical to think fresh about new goals. You want to make sure that you are pushing your boundaries in your search for purpose. Ask yourself, who or what inspires me to get out of my comfort zone and connect with the world beyond me? How can I connect meaningfully with individuals and communities with different backgrounds, beliefs, and values than mine? What is a simple first step that I can take right now? That's the important part. What's a first simple step that I can take right now to start exploring socially useful career opportunities and point me in a direction I want to go? Reflect on what you learned. Do a retrospective, introspective, even. Discuss with your friends. Accumulate feedback. Mix all these things into the results, and you'll be pointed in the right direction. How about this one? Re-examine your values. This one is interesting, right? Think about a person who really inspires you, who you would want to work with, or someone who you'd even want to be. What are their most compelling attributes? Write them down. Then think about your top 2 or 3 values currently in your life, the ones you think are your non-negotiables, the one you most strongly aspire to. Give it a good hard try until you have some words that you can sign your name onto. Then look at the list of values at the bottom of this sheet and ask yourself, when it comes to value setting, is there anything there that leaps out to you as critical, something you might have overlooked? Anything that might make you frown or what you reflexively reject, right? Keep your top values along with the ones that you want to promote and check in on them as you make decisions. Do your ideas and your thoughts add value to your next purpose and serve towards achieving those values? Ask yourself those questions. There's a lot of positivity in understanding your values. Think about how you values. Think about these values as you come up with direction, or you come up with ideas or conceptualization, whether it's for projects, a new job, time with your family. Think about where those ideas lie on an axis of how you're being served to how you serve others. Focus on things like achievement, and conservation, and caring, and freedom, and respect, and tradition, enjoyment, stability, equality. All of these things are great value, but you can't focus on them all at once. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's take a closer look at whether we're choosing ourselves or others. So when I think about this, sometimes values or goals that serve primarily yourself can be or should be criticized. Fame is a good example of that. If your goal is to be famous, somebody I know, a friend, well, I should say acquaintance, once shot me by announcing, ask yourself why you want that. Do you need to feel special? Do you imagine fame will bring you wealth? If that's the reason, zoom in on that in its turn. Why do you want wealth? What are you going to do with it? What counts as wealth to you? Where do you draw the line? Question your other goals or values and ask yourself why. If you look at the why and you discover that the why doesn't make sense to you, then you need to choose what gives you pleasure, even if it doesn't make you special or stand out. That's a critical one. Consider the connection between kindness and thriving. There have been lots of people who've written on this subject, and it's interesting because here, I'm trying to remember this quote. I believe it goes something like this. A cure for selfishness is kindness. Another cure is gratitude. Find out what makes you kinder, what opens you up, brings out the most loving, generous, and unafraid version of you, and go after it like nothing else matters. Go after it like you go after air to breathe. Find your secret, luminous place and clear away everything that constrains it. Shine bright. Those words, find your secret, luminous place and clear away everything that constrains it. That's what you're trying to do. That's what you should be striving for. We can all feel, if we pay attention to that, then we don't stray away. We don't become distracted. We find things that keep us connected to our inner self. Okay, here's the next one. Think into the future. Now, some people think way, way out into the future. I don't know that that's the best idea, but you do need to have some forward-thinking progress. Now is the time to think in terms of your current goals, n plus two is what I like to say, and the next two things you want to achieve. Now, sometimes those two things might take 3 years or 5 years, and that's okay, right? You can say, I want to focus on getting a college degree. Well, that's a 4 or 8 year plan, right? Now's the time to think about those goals. Now, I'm not saying you have to try to do it all at once because you can't. You have to spread those things out over time and break them down into smaller pieces in order to make them achievable. Think about the thing that's most important to you that you hope to achieve in 30 years. Home ownership, right? Make that leap over a short term goal and then set your short term goals to drive you towards that long term goal. So it's almost like a game of leapfrog, right? Because most people don't think of, oh, it's going to take me 30 years to own a home. They just think, hey, I want to own a home, right? So if you think about it from that perspective, put yourself in a position where you're achieving the things you need to do today in order to get to that long term goal. Make room for new goals and projects. On your way to defining your goals, consider that these aren't going to be your only goals. Um, Align these with your greatest interest. Align these with things that you can do. But yeah, you need to make sure that you understand that some things are going to creep in, that you're going to see new things that you desire, that your needs are going to change, that things are going to be better. And if you can do this and you can get back to those core values, that's going to help you bring back your light. A lot of people go through periods of darkness. And what I tell people when they go through periods of darkness is we all do. And the reason why we do is because when you're in the darkest place, that's where your light shines the brightest. So you need to make sure that you're aware of your light and how it's shining. So here's a list of values that you need to focus on. How about boldness, courage, courtesy, creativity, critical thinking, decision making, determination, directness, empathy, equality, fairness, fearlessness, fun, generosity, being a good citizen, graciousness, gratitude, honesty, humbleness, humility, humor, improvisation, inclusivity, influential, justice, love, mutual respect, optimism, patience, perseverance, perspective, persuasiveness, pleasure, power, respect for others, self awareness, self questioning, self reliance, socialization, spirituality, striving for quality, tolerance, transparency, trustworthiness, and my very favorite one, willingness to take action. We need to make sure that we are willing to take action today, that we're willing to push forward. And don't worry if you didn't get that whole list. I'll pop that list down in the actual description of the article, so you'll have a copy of that list. But learn how to focus on the things that matter most, and that's going to help you really accelerate who you are and put you in a better life space. That's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. We hope that you'll tune in on Monday when we start again for next week's Agile Daily Stand-Up Podcast. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.